I had to join. Okay, that was amazing. I think
We missed the mark.
I need more of that in my life. Hi, everybody out there in social media land. Hello. Before we get started, we're going to talk about comparison and the comparison trap and all that entails, what that means for coaches. Before we go down that rabbit hole, though, I want to remind everybody out there watching right now to please participate in this live. We want to hear from you. Comment. We are monitoring all chats as best we can, and your input and feedback is what we want in our lives. So it's the comparison is non-existent between when you do chat and when you don't chat. When we do hear from you, we don't hear from you. So please, we'd love to hear from you as we do this madness. So we already have a Facebook user who says hi. So hi, I don't know who you are. For some reason, you are anonymous. I'll try to figure that out so I can give you a proper hello. In the meantime, who wants to talk about what we're doing today?
I feel like Anthony can go with his background.
Yeah.
With Anthony's background? Okay, go for it.
We are talking about comparisons, how we compare ourselves to others, how we compare ourselves to ourselves, and the trap that a lot of coaches and clients fall in where they're unhappy and dissatisfied with their life because they're comparing it to someone else's life. And it's, whoever they're comparing to is up here and you're down here. And there's this gap that needs to happen. Which, now that I think about it, isn't the comparison trap maybe a good thing for us coaches? If a client's got somewhere they want to be, that allows for coaching. And if everybody was happy with where they're at, then no coaching happens. So maybe it's good for business.
Well, I think. Wait. I think you're making assumptions there.
Hello, Elizabeth. Just saying hi.
Hi, Elizabeth. I think that you are right off the bat making assumptions. One, that people are motivated by comparison, like that is something that might motivate them to do better.
Isn't that something that does motivate people, though?
It may be to some degree, but it depends on your client. I mean, they might be not motivated. They might see that other people are doing awesome and feel like crap. I'm failing, and just give up. Like that might be enough for them to be like, screw this, I'm done. Like,
I can actually give you a story on that example that I fell trap in. Back in the day when I was younger, in my earlier 20s, I had this idea that I wanted to be a bodybuilder. And this supposedly good friend of mine said, "You're not going to do that." And I started comparing to what she said and gave more gave the power away basically to her because she had more. So in comparing myself to her, she knew best. I didn't know it. I'm not going to do it. She's right. So I gave her the power. So that's where it doesn't work. But Anthony, you definitely are making great points because it does serve purposes. Just like many of the different aspects have several sides of a coin that can be a benefit in coaching sessions versus stopping that flow. So it just depends on what is in front of you, who you're coaching. Think of yourself. When have you allowed a comparison to shut you down, and when has a comparison helped you allow that flow to occur?
That's a very common. It's actually, if you've ever been assessed as with having ADHD or anything like that, that's one of the things they ask you. It's like one of the things is like, do you feel like other people your age are easily obtaining success, and you are struggling to do that, which is like, that's a direct thing that they're asking you to compare yourself to others. I think too, there was a period in my life that I abhorred social media. I didn't go on social media because I felt like people were making comparisons on social media that were ruining their lives and making them miserable, like, and making them ruin relationships, and like be like, they would, so and so is taking you on a vacation and they did, and I haven't gone out and their life is so amazing and they got a new car and they got and it's like, that's not reality. Thank you. So in no way, shape, or form does social media motivate me to do anything by comparison. However, definitely there have been times where the desire to be I'm an overachiever to like the nth degree, and I think to be an overachiever you have to work a little bit from a place of comparison, like, because like you are like, okay, I gotta succeed, I gotta, and there's always that like line of where you're setting your success in that bar, and I'm sure people fall in that line, which is dangerous though, ultimately, too. It is setting yourself up for misery in many ways.
I think there's a difference, especially online, between admiration and aspiration. Aspiring to be somebody that you just aren't just can't happen because you are not that person. We're all different. We all have very different scenarios. We have different hurdles to jump over. So I think it's okay to admire somebody online, maybe take aspects that, of their life that, you kind of enjoy. But to aspire to be that person is just chasing a ghost. You're never really going to get to that point because you're not that person.
I'm curious. Like, I'm just really curious about this. When you guys are like, if there's somebody that you look at, like maybe it's somebody that you might compare yourself to. If it was like your nemesis or I don't care who it is, whoever it is that you like, you're like, this person is doing well. When you see somebody else doing really awesome, like it appears they are kicking butt and taking names, how do you guys react and how do you feel?
I like to support.
Yeah.
Are you like awesome? Or are you like secretly like, screw them? I would.
Well, it depends on if I like the person or not.
Well, when I'm thinking about this, and if we're talking about comparison, if I'm definitely a person that's going to, think it's wonderful that they're doing so well, but there might be a comparison in there that, well, that's not, the direction I want to go, or that's not my philosophy or something like that. So I think that's still a comparison that we're talking about, but not to deter from what they're experiencing, just to know myself better. I guess that's probably the comparison I'm talking about.
So, by the way, comparison, as far as I've read and I can tell, it is something that's important for us. It is something that we do from a very young age and on. It's something we compare. We use it as a tool to identify where we are excelling, what we are good at, what we aren't that good at. And I think, it's sort of built in. If you think about like with school, you get grades, right? Well, that's a really easy way for me to like compare with this person to this person. Well, they're getting A's, I'm getting C's, they're getting, and it is innately part of our nature, and it's not always a bad thing. I think where it becomes dangerous is when it starts to cause discontentment in our own lives, right? And it can be that's where the trap is, because that can be, it's the grass is always greener mentality, right? Where you're almost like the halo effect, where like you're always wanting more because what you have is never enough, because there's always somebody who's doing better. There's always, something you could be comparing, and you're never happy with truly what you have and who you are. And that's where it sort of gets dangerous, I would think, right?
I can think of a very specific and personal example to this, which like in regards to like my health, for example. Went to the doctors recently and have a higher blood pressure than other people my age should be. I'm discontented by that fact, but I think it's a good thing that I'm discontented by that fact, because that led me to exercise more, change my diet, cut out caffeine. And after measuring, that I'm in a normal heart range where I am comparing myself to the norm of society, but that's not a bad thing. It's good for my health, and it feels good knowing that, because I was discontented, I made a change to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm putting my assumptions in there that it's better to have a lower heart rate, but in my specific scenario, that was the case. And sometimes it is good to be discontented with whatever currently is going on, because it might be the wake-up call you need to make changes in your life that are necessary. But if for like, that's a very quantitative thing that I'm comparing, and it's also, I'm comparing myself to like a general population. There's no one person I'm looking at and being like, I want to be just like them, and I'm not happy until I'm just like them. That might be where discontent is a bad thing, and if that's what's driving you, you might not ever end up being happy. Like Brooke said, the grass is always greener.
So I kind of hear flow in this, right? The authentic flow of what is a motivating factor.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a place where it isn't, and it's used to manipulate yourself, that doesn't sound like it's a good way to interact and be part of. But when you're saying in that comparison, recognizing the needs that you had in that moment and where you truly wanted to be, that comparison really motivated you to do something different.
But I would have also only known that a change needed to happen because a comparison was available to me. If I had nothing to compare myself to, I wouldn't know what is, the right place to be to begin with. So sometimes comparisons are absolutely necessary.
Sure.
To be in a healthy place, either mentally or physically, or whatever, with whatever goals you have in mind. No, Brooke's not here, so I'm going to ask a question. What is it? Well, Kyle, do you want to share that actually?
I was mentioning how I miss the food from California. I miss the authentic Mexican food, and comparing what we have here in Denver, it's definitely not the same. And yeah, grass is probably greener back at home, but when I was at home, I had no idea.
I don't know, Kyle. They've fallen off since you left. They've all fallen off. Not so good anymore.
I will tell you, Kyle, afterwards. Where the Mexican restaurant, there's only one. There's only one. And they might have two locations, but it's only one.
I have become the cook for all the food to make it authentic. And I've asked a lot of parents and grandparents for the recipes.
Oh, that's the best way.
And comparing to just the store-bought.
My stepdad's from Mexico. Same thing. But he's like, for him, it's like, this is really not like no, there's nothing here in California like the food I get. So
oh man.
No, he does it. So he does it himself. Like, that's why we made tamales for Christmas, and because yum. So bringing this back to coaching. And
not food.
I want to stick with food.
Food specifically.
How might comparison present itself for our clients?
Say that one more time. How would what?
I said, and this is a coaching question because I'm not leading or anything. How might comparison present itself for our clients? Or come into play for
a lot of the times, many of the clients that are coming to us are trying to decide to start their own business or stay at their job. And so they do a comparison chart to see which one's going to drive and which direction they want to go. So there's create their possibilities, options.
That's a great, bringing that up, you made me think of the Cartesian logic, the 4-column pros and cons lists that we use very much in that. That is true to God. Don't mind the phone. That is true to God comparison. Like, we are comparing and doing so in a way that's very thorough, right? We're comparing what happens if it doesn't. And you know how it goes.
That's comparing the options, though. Like, we always have a bajillion options in front of us. Are you asking how is comparison like? Oh, go on.
It's not typically when I use that tool personally, because I've used it personally. I would use it for, okay, what if I'm trying to make a decision and I'm going, okay, what happens if I do this what happens if I don't do this? So I would list out, well, what are the benefits of doing it? What are the benefits of not doing it? What are the benefits, or what are the drawbacks of doing it? What are the drawbacks of not doing it? And that is a way of hardcore comparison that I think where I can get a lot of clarity. I think where we're talking, though, is really when we're in this space, we're talking more about the comparing to other people and things, right?
Yeah,
to
I think
other
an unconstructive comparison.
we're talking about comparing things that are not in our control. When we are looking at basically a whole bunch of situations we have no information, we don't know the full picture of, and we don't have
a lot of assumptions are being made.
Boy, I think that where this comes up a lot for coaches and can come up for clients is that I'm comparing myself to somebody, the way somebody else is doing things. I am comparing if we're talking coaches, my marketing to the way so-and-so markets, and it's working great for them. Yeah, why isn't it working great for me? Or so-and-so does it all on Instagram. I have to do it on Instagram, or, but no, you don't.
And comparing relationships, that happens all the time.
And I would imagine in couples coaching, ding, 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 ding. Boy, howdy, there's probably a lot of comparing going on. How many upset couples have you had walk in because they were comparing their relationship to somebody else's?
Well, and it's comparing to, yes, someone else's perhaps is the golden relationship, but it's also comparing one significant other to an ex-significant other.
Oh,
yeah.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You know what's funny? In a past relationship that I was in, and I had friends who were also in a relationship, and we'd go, well, thank God we're not like them. But the comparison went the other way. We're just like, ooh, glad we don't fight like these people.
Well, there you go. Could be a good thing too, right? My life is so much better than them. Oh man, that's tough.
So maybe that's where comparison's a good thing. But yes, I can imagine, in relationship coaching, there's a lot of comparisons that are happening that are causing a lot of friction in a relationship.
Well, even in the sense of they're in this relationship, they think they've done it differently, and then they compare that they ended up with a similar type person. And that comparison, what they usually miss out is that they help create the relationship and then create the similarities. So part of that, if you will, training is to learn how to be different and who do you want to be with and how does that need to show up and blah, 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 blah. There's a whole system that we work with to move through that. But yeah.
Do you ever get in the relationship coaching, Lisa, the men or women or whoever saying like, you're just like your mother, or you're just like your father?
Yeah, you married your mother, your parent. Yeah, sure.
Have you ever had somebody say, well, he or she reminds me of my mother or father? Because that could be really kind of a weird situation to be in. Like, because like, what do you do? What do you do as somebody, like the person that, okay, so if somebody was saying to me, you remind me of my mother, and it's weird, well, I can't change that. I'm just me. Like, what the heck? That's not fair. That would be, I don't know. I guess it could go either way.
And that Robin makes a really good point.
This is
absolutely. It's kind of the return on investment. Helping them understand where they were and where they are now helps them understand that they've made progress.
Yeah. I think that's the best type of comparison is when you are comparing to yourself or the best version of yourself or where you've been in the past.
I got a question then.
It's the only kind of comparison that is authentic. Like it's the only one that you actually know is like informed. Right?
I've got a question though, like a coaching question on this though, that I think it might be coaches might be tempted to like praise or comment like, look how bad you were before, look how better off you are now that you've done the coaching. Or even like the assumption of progress. I think it's good to compare where the client was and where they are now, and let the client come to the conclusion.
I think though you wouldn't even, that would have to be a conversation that your client
Yeah.
guided, because they would have to, wouldn't they have to create the measuring stick for that? Like they would
Yeah.
have to,
Uh-huh.
if you're creating the measuring stick, then you're leading, aren't you? At that
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's where were you when you came in here? You're asking those questions.
Mhm.
What
And
was
then-
the progress? Where are the deviations today? I mean, whatever question, but yeah, what are the deviations from when to now?
I would probably even avoid using progress, because that's like leading, I guess, the client to think there's like a forward direction to coaching, when sometimes it's not a straight line. It's, you're going all over the place, and you're in a different place that might be better, or might be, not where they want to be. But
Coaching
So
is linear.
in the coaching space, typically in the executive coaching, but I still use it, return on investment, right? What is your ROI in this space?
that's
So we're
good.
not
But yeah,
setting up on the first coaching session and saying, "Hey, look how much worse you were yesterday as compared to how great you're going to be after this session today."
That's right. You're going to have an amazing session today because I have deemed it so.
and you sucked last session.
and you better do better this session.
I will say though, and speaking to folks that have hired life coaches,
Yeah.
much of the time they are hiring them because they relate to them and because they want they're comparing themselves to that coach in many
Mhm.
ways. They want something that coach has, or they want to be more like that coach, or they want to get knowledge or something from that coach, and that is a direct comparison. A lot of times my life is effing up here, this coach seems to have it together in the same area, I'm going to hire them, right? Am I wrong there? I know that
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the niche coaching that we often try to persuade our students that is really important, because it allows your client to find you. And oftentimes it's someplace that you've already been as a person that you work towards as a coach.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and clients, they want that degree of trust. They want the trust that whatever problem it is that they're trying to solve, or whatever goal that it is they're trying to reach, is actually achievable in the real world. So that helps
Yeah.
with the trust issue, and so that they're able to open their wallets and give you their money. But at the same times, the coach needs to bring the expectation that, like, I had my journey,
Yep.
and that was good for me. Let's talk about yours and
Mhm.
what works for you.
Absolutely. What works for you is going to be, might be the similar or totally different. Absolutely. Do not tell them your prescription on, as a coach, on how to pursue the direction you achieve, because it might be something completely different that you never even, one, could think of, or two, tried and failed, but it is really successful for this person because of, their chemistry. Whatever that chemistry is. Absolutely.
when when we are comparing, what are we doing and what aren't we doing?
I think there's a lot of factors we aren't considering. I think also on the same note as where comparison can come up in coaching, a really nasty one is trying to live up to the perceived ideal person of loved ones that they give off, or what you believe that they're giving off. Trying to live up to that standard. That's a really nasty space of comparison. Trying to compare yourself to something that doesn't exist, something that isn't necessarily what you want to be. That's what we're not considering in that instance. I think is, do we really want to be that? Is that something that we actually care about? Of course, we love our loved ones, but at the same time, is what their perception, or your perception of what they're trying to go ahead and relay to you as the standard to be, is that something that you're comfortable with?
That's living up to an expectation, right? That may not be something that you necessarily identify with or want to be. It might not be serving you as a human being, but you're doing it because it's an expectation of you, right? Okay.
I think that's one of the best ways to kind of stop yourself from being in that comparison trap is to really ask yourself questions around why you are comparing at this moment. What is it that is keeping you so entrenched in this moment of comparison, and figuring out what the next move after that is once you get those answers.
Well, and that brings me back to my question: what are we doing, and what aren't we doing when we're comparing?
Well, I think part of it is an education process, and being able to compare. We have to recognize what someone is and isn't doing. And part of that exploration is that a direction that we want to go. It's got to be an experiment as well as education of understanding on what we're seeing. When Anthony, I think it was Anthony, was talking a few moments ago, I had another thought. Part of comparison is learning that when we are recognizing some trait in others that we're attracted to and want to take on, that's an education piece as well. But owning, as a client, we have to own our own space. So being aware of the comparison, but not allowing it to, what's the word I'm looking for? To be absorbed, from the other person. It's got to be a learned. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to find the words.
What you're saying is essentially when you do compare someone, what you are doing is you're taking in information and you're synthesizing something new to learn something about that. And what you do with that afterwards, you could just be miserable, or you could use it for a productive purpose, but you're learning something from that comparison.
And being able to recognize it in the first place means it's already part of who you are. It's a matter of how you want to display it as well.
Now, Brooke, to go back to your question, I'm trying to think about what are we not doing when we're comparing. We're not being content with who we are at the moment.
Yeah.
We're not being in the moment at all. Like, we're not living, right? At that point. It's not about us, ultimately. It's coaching the ghost a little bit, isn't it? When we're in that comparison, because it's not thinking about how we're moving forward. It's thinking about what either we aren't or are, or it's being stuck in your head. It's not living.
Well, it could be a motivation for moving forward, because we would have to understand where we are, which is not going forward. But going forward could be in that comparison chart of where do we want to move towards. And ultimately, if we're using it like, we're discussing here, it stops us in our tracks. That's definitely not going to be a benefit by any means.
I think that so okay, if I was a client, I walked in, and let's say I'm throwing this out here. I'm trying to think of something who is somebody that you guys admire or like, or would emulate maybe yourselves or actions after?
Well, I always say I want to be Dalai Lama.
Okay, so if you walked into my office and said, I want to be the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
What would we do as a coach next?
We would ask what the attachment or attraction is to the Dalai Lama.
What about the Dalai Lama? Do you want to?
I would ask, what are the
Sorry, you cannot be the Dalai Lama.
I would ask what your definition of admire is.
Sure.
Because I realize that I have a very different definition of admire than I think some people have. So the way I understand admire is it's recognizing something within someone else that you actually have a little piece of inside you. And so you appreciate it in somebody else. It's an appreciation. And so when you admire someone, it's almost an acknowledgement of, hey, that's within me too.
Look at that.
But not everybody sees it that way. Some people see, envious. And I think that's very different. Envy and admire is different to me.
Well, and what we're talking, the admire and comparison is very similar, but the admire is got a more positive spin to it, doesn't it?
And then envy is seeing something that someone has, wanting it, and thinking, well, I can't have that. But you don't want that person that you see it have, you don't want them to not have it. Jealousy is when you want that person.
But yeah, let's take it. What's coveting? What is jealousy?
Let me get my Bible out.
That one I haven't thought of yet. So I've only broken down, I guess, in my head, jealousy, envy, and admiration. I have not worked on covet.
Thou shalt not compare thyself to thine.
Yeah, that's good. You should have said that out loud, Kyle.
My lawn is greener. That's all I'm saying. You know.
Yeah, I'm working on my green lawn, but it's not doing so good.
So what would your definition of admire be?
I'm with you, Jen. Appreciate.
Yeah, I don't think I have a deviation from that.
Yeah.
I don't. The one difference in me is I didn't draw a comparison to me to it. I just said that is something that I appreciate about another human being. Like it's something that I look and I go, I appreciate that. Like that, I like that element. I like that aspect of who they are. That's pretty sweet. If I were to draw it, which you can. When I start to really think about it, admire. Well, if it's something I like in them, why wouldn't I want that trait to be a part of me? So then I'm probably going to want to hang out with them more too. And so I can learn to be more like that.
Yeah.
I think you can admire quality in somebody and not want that quality in yourself.
I have admired people's just absolute stupidity before. Yeah. So I have just been like, wow, that is impressive.
I can honestly agree with that. It's just like, wow, life would be easier if I was just like so ignorant and so stupid. Like I could probably be a happier person if I was as stupid as you were.
So to be fair, I was raised without a religion. I was raised in zero religion whatsoever. I was none. Like I was actually raised the other side of the spectrum. I was raised to believe in not a God. And I used to, when I was younger, it was like, man, like all of those people with religions, they already got the rules. They've already got life figured out. And me, I got to figure it out for myself and make my own, which is just like, and there were times I was like, it seems like it would be so much easier if I they have a guidebook that I do not possess to living, to life, to afterlife. To me, it's like, it was definitely times in my life that I was like, man, I'm a little jealous that I don't have that. Because I admire it, like you've got this faith, you've got this whole thing that I was never given or taught, or is just, it was definitely, and how do you suddenly become, I guess I could just choose to at some point, but it's just weird because I think when you get it from childhood, it's a little different. I don't know. Maybe not though, who knows? But definitely moments that I have admired folks who had the book, had it figured out. Like it was like, you got your afterlife figured out. That's pretty awesome.
Well, because it's admirable in the sense where they have it, like they have, I guess, the rules that they play by, or like whatever needs to be done to be a happy and fulfilled human being as far as their religion is concerned. And then they meet that standard. Like it's all there. And we're sometimes like maybe not the jealousy, but like, oh, this person has too good of a life. Gets under my skin how happy they are. But like, it's admirable because
oh my gosh,
it's admirable because you are comparing like the good qualities that they're showing in their life.
To be fair, I have met that person that was like too happy all the time. I was like, no, like that person at some point, like they have to be either on drugs or because they can't just live at this level at all times. Like there has to be, like at some point they have to stub their toe and cry or something. Like, and after a while you do start to root for that. I'm just like
so.
I think we're just
my goodness,
plumbing the depths of your like psychology.
Wow!
I relate, but I don't want them to experience something bad. I just actually the thought that I tell myself when I see someone that seems absolutely perfect and their life is perfect and they're happy all the time, I remind myself that they do have a struggle. I just
Yeah.
don't know about it. Like
Isn't that
that's
funny, though?
always a thought that plays in my head. It's
Isn't
like,
that just an assumption though? Like
That is like, yeah, isn't that
couldn't
just
there
like
be people who just don't struggle in life at all?
no, I believe truly that
Absolutely.
everybody has a struggle. Like that's a foundational belief.
I will say Halo Effect does kind of argue that yes, everybody has a struggle. Even like the person who has, you know, like even Elon Musk, he's got 3 divorces. I mean, everybody's got like
That guy's got a ton of kids. I think he's got like 8 kids, so he's definitely got some issues.
so the more you have, the more you want. Like that is Halo Effect. Like the more, because you be content with what you have and you're always striving for more. And so I think that sometimes the happiness is in maybe the simplicity of things, like being happy with what you have. Like that is like the antithesis of comparison, right? I'm good. I'm happy with what I got. I can be happy for everybody else. I don't need to compare myself to anybody. Life is good.
So if we're in that space, does growth still happen?
Yeah.
So how do you get to growth if you don't know what the difference is?
You shift your comparison to your past self instead of others.
I don't even think you need to be. This is all assuming that people are motivated from a place of negativity or a place of wanting, lacking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I be motivated from a place of abundance? Like,
Sure.
why can't I can be? I can decide, hey, you know what, life is good, but I want to learn how to play the banjo lately. Like, it doesn't mean that anything is bad or gone awry or uncomparable. It's just something I'm.
But isn't
So
that
hold on, before we go anywhere else, I want this to be a big marker for all you coaches out there. There's parentheses or quotes or whatever. Your clients don't have to have a problem to be coached. This is the point. Things can be going really well and they want to move on to a different achievement.
They just want to try, you know, I just want to try this thing out. I mean, that's why do we have to be in a struggle or have things be crappy to learn, want to try something different or new, or
It doesn't have to be a problem.
reinvent ourselves for that matter, right? I mean, what if tomorrow I want to be the Dalai Lama? I'm not happy.
Might be a little stepping stone that you have to go through or two. But yeah.
Speaking on the Dalai Lama as a sort of related idea, with also your want to play the banjolele, isn't the want, and this is, I'm getting philosophical, I don't really know where I'm going with this, but isn't the want to do something or the want for any sort of enjoyment or entertainment or things like that, doesn't that come from a lack of contentment with just existing?
No, I can categorically say no.
Let me put it this way.
He's going to sell you on it.
Let me put it this way. Would most people be content sitting in an empty room? They have their nutritional and water needs and their, bathroom needs taken care of, but would they be content with just sitting in an empty room?
If
They
I had a
could
pen,
be.
paper.
I often am.
But forever.
They could be.
There are a lot. So there's, I don't know if I could. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
But there
not
are
saying-
plenty
I'm not
of
saying-
people that their main job in life is to do meditation, and that is the main thing. There's the breatharians that their whole focus is inward and breathing, and they don't really eat.
Well, and that's Anthony also making an assumption that a blank room is something that somebody might not want.
What I'm trying to get at is with the Dalai Lama connection is there are people in the world who absolutely 100% believe that you cannot, your desires to do things and achieve goals, even if you're not suffering from a problem, your desire to achieve something comes from your inability to be content with just existing without doing anything else.
I bring my attention to Nick, though. Nick has desires, and he seems content most of the time. And I don't think he's ever miserable.
But you can't communicate to him. Like you can't know that for
I guess
sure.
I can't know that.
So is the argument because I want to do and grow, it is based on my discontent of where I am in this moment.
Yes, I'm not saying that's my argument.
Hmm.
I'm not saying I agree with, I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm saying there
I
is.
disagree.
If we're talking about you wanting to be the Dalai Lama, that seems to be a prerequisite to believe that. If we're coming from a Buddhist perspective,
Okay, yes.
which millions of people do believe that is the case.
Well, that's enlightenment in Buddhism is the achievement of nothingness, right?
I'm not speaking on as a Buddhist though. I'm spitballing at the very best, but all I'm saying is that you can coach people who are seemingly not having any sort of problems.
So I'm content, but I want more. Is not the argument we're
You're content
discussing.
I don't think you can be content and also want more.
But
That
why
seems
does
to
it?
be
Why
butting
does it
heads.
have to be more? Here's my why
Well,
does it
learning more. Is what
why
it
does it
is.
have to be more? I mean, I think that there's an innate baggage that comes with the idea of wanting more. Why can't it just be that I just
What if we're
feel
allowing
like
more?
I feel like doing something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I
Well,
feel
in order to do something, if you're wanting to play the banjo, whatever it's called, banjolini,
Angelele.
banjolele, thank you. If you're wanting to play the banjolele, and you're wanting to play like a tune, not just whatever they call it. You've got to learn how to do that. Isn't learning, when we're talking about this, isn't learning growth?
It is growth. Yes, absolutely.
So isn't it more?
It depends.
But that's when I'm saying, when I'm using more, that's in this space, that's what I'm moving
can
towards growth.
I can learn things and wish I had not learned them.
Yes.
And at that point, it is less.
That's true.
But I think less and more is not. I think that maybe it's just me. Maybe I have an aversion to the idea of less and more. Just unless it's quantifiable and quantitative, it's hard for me to wrap my head around.
Somebody wrote in the chat, dissatisfied with the desire to grow. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. Mhm.
We pop that up there for 2 seconds so people
I
can
disagree.
Hold on. I want to make sure I understand, Anthony, your point. You're saying that you don't believe that someone can feel enough and feel that they have enough and still want to grow or achieve or expand or change.
I think on the surface alone, it seems incompatible.
Well,
Like with what Facebook user put, satisfied with a desire to grow. Satisfaction and also having a desire seem incompatible to me. If I'm satisfied, I'm not going to have. And I'm talking.
like,
Okay,
if you've eaten a giant meal, you're not going to want more food.
yeah, if I'm satisfied, like my hunger is satiated,
But
I'm not
wait,
going to have a desire to eat.
we're talking about one area, right? At that point, your stomach, you're full, you're content. Ooh, that's good. That doesn't mean that you don't want to turn the TV on.
Yeah, but we're comparing apples to oranges then. I might be satisfied.
My point exactly.
No. You might be satisfied with your hunger, but you're not satisfied with like your entertainment or your attention span or whatever's going on.
Satisfaction.
I think I could still be satisfied and want to do additional behaviors.
It's like it's assuming that somebody is proactive versus reactive. That if someone is more forward motivated versus like you're motivated towards pleasure or away from pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're coming from this idea that people are only motivated away from pain, but that's not true. People can be motivated to move forward to pleasure and be coming from a place of pleasure. Like I might be happy and want to be to just stack on the happiness.
Yeah, what I'm saying is though, and that's very funny. What I'm saying though is that whatever your desire is, whatever you're motivated away from pain or towards pleasure, It comes from a lack of satisfaction of where you were currently at.
Why
I'm
does
not
it have to do with- I
satisfied.
don't like the word satisfaction. I disagree because I don't.
Well, whatever term we move it towards, it's this versus that comparison that Anthony's bringing up.
Mhm.
Is it human nature for us to always want to achieve more? For the most part, I would say most of us want to achieve more. Is it because we're dissatisfied where we are?
I think so.
Or it's because of inflation, and we gotta if we don't get more, then we're gonna end up behind, and we're not gonna be at this nice homeostasis satisfaction level. So we have to keep up with everything else around us.
I think there can be satisfaction and still desiring different things. Like I would like my so the house where my house is, there's no real flat area. So I'm not dissatisfied that it's a hilly area, but I do wish we had some flat area, especially for my granddaughter to play in. Does that mean I'm dissatisfied with it?
Yes.
I don't feel that way.
If you could magically have a flat area instead of a hilly area, though, like if that you could snap your fingers and that
Yeah.
was the case, would you do it?
Yeah.
Then to me, it sounds like you're dissatisfied with the hilly
But
area,
okay,
and you desire something else.
I'm not dissatisfied. So you're saying that I'm dissatisfied with the fact that I cannot play the banjo-lele, and that's what's driving me to play the banjo-lele? Because it's not at all coming from a place of dissatisfaction. It's coming from a place of curiosity. It's coming from a place of just mostly curiosity and just like wonder if I can do this. I want to know, and I want to know it'd be fun if I did, and I want to see what it's like. It is
Why do
nothing
you
to
choose?
do with
So my question is, why do you
dissatisfied with my
choose?
desire to play the banjo-lele or my ability to play the banjo-lele?
So my question is, Brooke, why do you choose the banjo-lele as opposed to any other skill in the world?
I could choose any other. I have a curious hunger to find out what the things I can do. Like so much of my life is based around
I'm asking why though.
why the banjo-lele, because I like the
Mhm.
instrument.
I like hearing the term.
Banjo-lele. My ultimate point though with this whole conversation is I think when coaching happens, even if it's a reward and pleasure motivated person, not like I'm trying to get away from my problems, but somebody who I want more to life, I'm happy with my life and I want more to it, there's still a comparison being made. And I think it's an assumption, we talked about that a while, that we sort of just let fly under the radar. I'm comparing my life at this point now versus a version of me who hypothetically exists. And we do this all the time in coaching. We talk about imagine what it would be like to be able to play the banjo-lele. How does it feel to be that person? We're making a comparison to a ghost, essentially, or to a hypothetical person who's not existing. And then we're trying to figure out or get our client to figure out how to bridge that gap.
Well, it's also we're attaching them to the emotional relevance, which we do that's the reason we ask why and do that is so that they can be attached to the emotional relevance of a goal, because it's been found that if we have that emotional attachment to the outcome, we are far more motivated to actually accomplish our goals. Like that is a huge why that's a very important part of coaching.
Yeah.
And that's that bridging the gap that, I talked about, where like there's a hypothetical you, and then there's the you right now. Giving that emotional relevance is how we make that more real so that a person can actually take action in that direction.
I'm thinking, like, I don't think that playing the banjo-lele is going to make me a happier human being. Like, I don't think that, oh my God, my life is going to be so much better if I play the band. Like, man, life is going to be awesome. I actually probably think I'll play it for a little while, and then go, okay, I can do this, and probably never play it again, because that's how I operate, just to see if I can, and then that's enough. But that's so. I guess for me, it would be hard. I guess I'm trying to ask myself, so what is the emotional driver here? Like what is, and maybe it's to satisfy my curiosity, and just to see if I can, which I guess then is an ego thing on some level. Which now I hate myself. So let's move on.
It's a bit of an extreme reaction.
I think
Kyle,
we
you've been
all,
awfully quiet. We've read your stuff. What do you have to say in this department?
Gosh, I mean, I'm on track with what everyone's saying. I feel like it's a mindset of how you want to compare, and you need to maybe take a step back if you start comparing yourself and it gets negative and spirals down and that imposter syndrome picks up. Or maybe if you feel that way, you can start comparing yourself and use different words like admiring somebody and wanting to maybe set goals to better yourself and comparing your older self to who you are now. Positive ways in comparing. And I think it's a good way to not let comparing become, I guess, a thief in your coaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Good,
Anthony's
good summarization.
getting taken over by Kat. I want
Very
to.
distracted by
Yeah.
that.
Mama Cat. Is that Mama Cat?
Yeah.
Aw. Did I interrupt you, Jerome?
Everybody's like,
I
"Aw."
was, it might take us back to what we were just kind of, I guess, very, we're going back and forth on. I have just something to add. What if desire is a part of contentment because desire means we're living? I think we all desire something. Maybe that, I don't know. I don't know. This is a very hard concept, I think, to wrap your head around. It's cyclical, I think, is where this is why we're chasing our tail at this moment. So I think it's all kind of just
It's the circle. The circle of life. Which is funny. Well, yeah. My dad raised me with that when you stop learning, you start dying. Like he's like,
Yeah.
as soon as you stop
Mhm.
learning, you start dying. So that life is learning.
I think that's what I have a hard time with Anthony's discontent, because I don't feel like I'm discontent, but wanting to learn.
I just
You
want
know,
to
it means you're alive.
great
I
full of
think
knowledge.
functioning.
My definition of discontent is different from Lisa's version of discontent, and probably everyone else has their own definition. I'm very noticeably discontent when I have like the stomach flu. That's certainly discontent. But I think it means I think it is linked to the definition of contentness, which to me, off the top of my head, what the hell would be content?
It is true. When I think of contentment, I do think of being like just not being in motion. Like if I'm
Yeah, it's like
content.
a placid lake.
Yeah, that's content. And I do associate that with this word.
Yeah.
I guess is there an assumption being made that what we want is contentment? Because maybe we are happy with our discontentment.
So what about grateful yet driven instead of content, right? You're grateful, but you're also driven.
It's like, for me, I guess what makes me satisfied or makes me is my motivator for life is really curiosity and experience, and like knowing that there is so much out there I could do. Like, Jesus Christ, there's a ton of things out there. There's no possible human way I could do it all. There's no possible way I could meet everybody, hear their story, live every experience. And that, to me, I guess maybe is where my discontentment comes from, because it's like I know I have a finite amount of time, so I want to pack in as much as I can in that time, in every way I can, because I want to live and I want to go and know that I, lived my life. I sucked the pith out of life, and I spent my life living. And there's that. I guess that's a motivator in many ways, is to know that when I get to, that I got to experience the things I wanted to experience. The flip side of that, though, is I'm also completely content with the idea of being satisfied with what I have, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm solid there. So it's in sort of opposition of one another in many ways, and there's a comparison that is interesting to me, internal opposition. It's true. I guess there's a lot, that might be where discontentment comes from. Is for me that opposition between being content with what I have, but also wanting to experience more, and knowing that in the wanting, I might be losing some contentment or comfortability, but being okay with that too at the same time.
So what you described though, Brooke, it's not like you're moving the goalpost. You're making goals and then you move the goalpost, right?
Yeah.
You actually celebrate and embrace success and achievement and new experiences and things. It's not, that you just keep creating new. Yeah.
It's not like I don't see it as an upward. It's not like I'm doing this, right?
Right.
It's that it's flat, and I can ping in any which direction at any time. And so it for me, it's like there's all this opportunity in the world. Like there's so much opportunity, and at any moment I could choose to go right, left, whatever direction that is. It's just a matter of choosing to go that way. It's not like I'm chugging uphill. It's just that I'm choosing to go left, right, or any other direction. So, which is true of goalposts too. That's on a flat piece of land.
So I know the conversation kind of moved to comparison to contentment,
Where we get what happened here.
and then further afield.
I think that those are comparable.
Yeah. Well, no, what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to wrap us up now since we're at the hour. But what can our coaches take away from this whole conversation as far as comparison goes?
We're helping our clients find their next groove in life, and part of that is for them to recognize where they are so that they can make steps now to go towards whatever interest they are wanting to add, like what's it called again? The Banjolini?
Banjolele.
Banjolele, right? So wanting to play a banjolele is going to need steps to get there. What can I do today that move me towards that direction of playing?
This is a banjolele. Well, it's inside its case.
Is it 10? Is it 10 strings?
It's 5 strings. It's only
5 strings. Okay.
It's easier instrument to play, and that's one of the reasons I chose it.
Can you play us an outro song?
To the really complicated ones that are much harder to learn. What was that?
Oh yeah, Kyle, what would you say?
I asked if Brooke would play us an outro
It's not
song.
even tuned. I don't even have it tuned. I haven't even.
It's pretty though.
My banjolele teacher canceled on me, so I had to find a different one.
Let's cancel them on live right now. Say their name. Brooke, what is your takeaway?
Who?
You?
Well, for takeaway for coaches, I kind of did this earlier. Is comparison? It can be good. It can be bad. It can be whatever you want it to be. Ultimately, I think that would be I would say, if you're going to compare, right? Do so in a way that's productive, but don't stay there long. Like, don't live in that space of constantly comparing and start living. So if it's great, it serves a purpose. Give yourself a moment. Okay, this is what I want. Boom. Well, what do you take from that? What can you do? What is within your power? And then get to living. Because when I think we're stuck comparing, we're stuck in our heads. We're not living. We're not. A whole lot of life is passing you by when you're stuck in a space of comparison. And that's, why coaches come into the picture ultimately, right? Is that maybe they've been comparing, but our job is to get them into action and start taking those steps towards what it is that they want ultimately, and helping them figure out what that is. Maybe that is just learning to be content with what they have. Maybe that is the process. Maybe it is them taking steps to the next thing. But ultimately what we are doing is getting our clients to be mindful and moving in a place where they are content and they don't feel like they have to compare anymore, unless they want to. But don't live there. Don't live in comparison. Just visit it when it serves you, and then get the F out of Dodge. And that's it. So
Yeah.
Jen,
The quote that is coming to me for this one is, it's a Rich Litvin quote, and it's have a mission so powerful that nothing will stop you. And it just makes me think about having a mission so powerful as a coach that comparison won't stop you.
Mhm.
I mean, there's what, as far as I know, 71,000 coaches worldwide, compared to how many billion people on the planet. That's not that many coaches. Every coach is needed. Every coach has a mission, and make that mission powerful, and don't let comparison get in your way and trip you up.
make that mission incomparable, singular,
Mm.
its own, niche. Okay, I'm done.
Jerome.
I think Brooke kind of captured what I would take away from this live. But to put it short and sweet, is really when you find yourself in the comparison trap, ask yourself not necessarily maybe why, but what purpose it serves to be in this comparison. And I think one good answer that you can find yourself coming to when it comes to comparison is you aren't anybody else. You are who you are. So to really compare yourself is just a futile effort. It doesn't make any sense, really, if you think about it, to compare yourself to someone else, if this is the type of comparison that we're talking about. So that is, I think, ultimately my takeaway.
Kyle.
I am on the same page as everybody. I think you should compare yourself forward, instead of kind of like failing forward. Same thing, compare yourself in a positive fashion.
For me as well, comparison is something that I think everybody will always do for eternity, but it's recognizing what you are comparing, seeing if it benefits you or not, whether it's comparing yourself to a past version of yourself, a future version of yourself, or someone else, identifying what it is you are comparing yourself to, and is this actually what you want? And then if it is, find a way to move towards that direction. You might find that the grass is always greener and it's not what you thought it was. You might be exactly what you're looking for, but comparison is a useful tool to help people get to where they want, but it can hold you back at times if you're only living in comparison. And that's it. That's live.
Thank you. Join us. We have an amazing 3-day process for our certified life coaches. Come join us. We have a lot of fun. We have a class going on right now. They're experiencing some great life coaching.
See you guys next week.